So, hello everybody, I hope you're enjoying the show. My name's Dan Kovacs. I've been coming to post-Commodore, World of Commodore, this will be my 9th year. And I started about 3 or 4 years ago going to other computer conventions, namely Vintage Computer Fest East in New Jersey. And I've been to the last 3 or 4 Vintage Computer Fest Midwest in Chicago. I remember you from there. And in Chicago, I met a guy who goes by Nico. Some of you may recognize his name. He posts a lot on Facebook in the various Commodore discussion groups and so on. And very active in the Commodore community, but his contribution is more getting other people to do stuff. We all sat down together, we had dinner, I think it was the Saturday night of this year's VCF Midwest, and they had the idea that we would come up with this collection of software. And I volunteered to write the loader for it, and this is basically the product of more than a few hours of work. I'll just give you guys a heads up, I'm not a really super elite coder. I can put stuff up on the screen and I can make it work, but I can't make it pretty. You're not going to be blown away with special effects or anything like that. But it does work. So, this graphic here was supplied to me by Nico. He wanted a title screen in this image, or sorry, in this menu system. So he sent that to me as a JPEG file, and I, using a couple of tools in Windows, downsampled it and converted it to a Qualipad bitmap. Without dithering, we looked at it a couple of different ways with various kinds of dithering to make it look like maybe there were more colors than there actually are, but we think this looked the best. And it certainly fits the art style of the stuff Nico's done for somebody else's demo. So, and it's included on the disc. So that's hopefully not, I'll turn it down for now because it's, where's the volume on this?
I got a menu up there.
Menu. Easiest way is to do that. Okay. So when we were talking about putting this collection together, the one thing we ran into is traditionally disk formats on the Commodore 64, right? 99.9% of people used something like a 1541, which single-sided 171K. We wanted to be able to put more onto the disk than just 171K of software. So the idea I had was to use a 1581 disk. And disk formats now are a little less relevant than they used to be back in the 80s, because people have devices like the micro IEC which can read any of these disk formats. If you put the D81 image into it, you CD into it, and as far as the software is concerned, you're on a 1581 disk. And lots of people have these, so we weren't really limiting our audience by choosing this format, and I think that would have been a concern 20 years ago, but now it's not. So so what we got going on here is just a plain text screen with 2 different scrolls and a list of games and demos and stuff that we all liked. There's a lot of stuff on here from Chameleon, who was mentioned in the previous, one of the previous demonstrations, the BBS stuff. And it's controlled with a joystick, and the joystick routine is still somewhat buggy. But you can just go into a program and launch it. But you can't return to the menu, of course, once you run a program.
Where's your menu sitting?
The menu itself is all over the place. It starts, the actual code for the program starts at 4,000. I just picked some arbitrary address and started using it. Started my code there. But I'm not doing anything weird like relocating screen RAM or anything like that. So your screen's at what, 0400 still, and the one thing I am doing is I did a picture viewer a couple of years ago. I think I gave a little talk on it. It was maybe 2010 or 11. And what I was not doing then was I wasn't blanking the screen as the picture was getting built up. I'm doing that now. So this actually has the picture viewer in it, and I can call it from within the menu. It sort of works. And when I say sort of, I have no idea why it's not working. Because when I try to show the Jim Butterfield picture that Nico supplied me, it comes back with that after loading the right data in. So I'm not sure what's going on there. That is hopefully going to get fixed today.
You still got until tomorrow, right? So.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So Nico also did the music for this. We had some problems with that. Oops. That's strange. It's not playing now, but basically what happened with the first song file that Nico sent me, he composed it on iPad and exported it as a SID file, and it pre-pended a whole bunch of garbage at the start of the start of the file, and we couldn't get it to work. We sent it off to a guy named Robin Harbron, who he's not here this year, I don't think. But,
Thunder Bay?
Yeah, the guy from Thunder Bay. Yeah. And he discovered this junk data at the start of the file. So Nico composed a different tune. I still couldn't get it to work. So Jim64, the guy who did the VR headset and the Street Defender game, did something to make it work and sent me back the corrected file. And I was able to use it. So it runs in a raster interrupt. It's called every 5 frames, the music player, otherwise it plays too fast. The scroll texts are all done in raster interrupt at the top of the screen. That's being called every other frame, runs at half the speed of the bottom one. So Nico did the text for the first probably 7 minutes or so of the scroll at the bottom of the screen, and I did the rest. So
The bottom scroll seems so much smoother than the top scroll.
the top scroll is only drawing every second frame.
Oh.
Yeah. There was probably a better way for me to do that, but I wanted it to run slower.
Fine.
So that's kind of intentional. One of the problems I ran into is one of the games on this compilation has a loader that's written in BASIC. And I know now that there's a fairly easy way to call a BASIC routine from within a machine language program. I didn't know that 2 or 3 days ago when I was working on that part of it. So I came up with a more, I guess, creative solution. Just restart the program. Oops. I came up with a more creative solution. Is I used a program called Xamizer, which is a crunching program where you can crunch a basic program and create a self-extracting executable that will unpack the basic program then run it. So I could use the same code that I'm using for everything else to load the Star Wars game that Jim had supplied me with. So he's probably a little better at this than me, but you know, it's pretty cool stuff. And he did that, like I said, he did that VR headset and wrote the program. He gave a really, really good talk at Midwest about that. So, I decided the program, after it was assembled, because I'd had it all over the place in memory, I just decided I had to compress it, right? And so I used Xamizer. A lot of people use that, and it does stuff with a cassette buffer. I had my load routine. The program would run, copy the load routine into the cassette buffer, and then every time I went to load something, it would jump to that address. Xamizer does something with the cassette buffer even after the program's running. I didn't take any time to research why, but I just moved the load routine to, it was above C000 somewhere. The other issue I ran into was the size of the scroll text actually went into the address space where BASIC is. So while the program's running, BASIC is turned off. And then when I go to run the Star Wars loader, just before it actually jumps and executes, or just before it loads the program actually, it turns BASIC back on. So it can load the program and run it. What else do I have here? I don't really have a lot else to say about it. It's been a fun project. We are going to be putting this up on the Commodore 64 scene database once I get a few of the other little bugs worked out. Does anybody have any questions? Sure.
So it'll come down as a D64 file and
D81.
D81?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And again, the reason for that is there's more space. We could have done it over a couple of disks, but we chose to be different and do it in a non-standard format. So, anybody else? Okay. That's it.